All right, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is a Volkswagen Buggy Super Beetle to be exact, on top of a CF Moto Z-Force 950 chassis, which is also in pieces over there. So yeah, rolled the CF Moto, roll cage was destroyed, ordered a new 10-point roll cage for a Volkswagen Bug, and should be quite cute in there. Front headlights are gonna obviously get meshed a little more into there, but yeah, 1971 Super Beetle on a ZF Moto. Should be a fun build. We've got everything tacked in with the A-pillars and whatnot. Fenders are in place, just tacked in. All of the arrows are in Sharpie, or what I'm gonna have to go back through and actually weld. But here's how it's looking so far. That back panel is gonna need to get covered with something, or I'm gonna put a basket back there, I'm not sure. But in any case, it's a look. That's for sure, it is a look. So the side-by-side Bug is definitely interesting, to say the very least. And don't mind the top fold in the roof line. I'll pull that out, but that was me dropping it. So once I pull that out, everything should look straight enough for a rolled side-by-side cage frame. So any case, there's the Bug, there's the what's left of the side-by-side and Bug combined together. In case you're curious what a CF Moto 950 skeleton looks like with all the wiring intact, all the cooling, the driveline, etc., this is it. And if you don't mind, we have a bit pile of plastics over there, so we're gonna go ahead and take it back out, fix that rear shock that is bent from the rollover, and see how it goes as a skeleton. Pull it back in, clean up the shop, whole 9 yards, and get ready for the body swap. Should be fun. She's mint. Don't touch the drive shaft. An adequate donor. What a nice day at the farm. Nice little quaint day. Enjoying the super hot summer heat and working on the Chinese shipbox mobile. Okay, so we have the Beetle pushed into place. We're gonna start working on getting the chop top going and just getting the bulk of the material moved over to the side-by-side. These cuts aren't gonna be pretty just because Volkswagen Beetles aren't supposed to go on really high lifted side-by-side. So we'll be chopping basically the front at the A-pillar and then the back along the skins on the inside. So no floorboards or anything. Should be a relatively easy cut, all things considered, but it's gonna take some meshing to make look right on the side-by-side, and it's not worth keeping all the floors and just taking the body off intact. All right, guys, so we laid those two front fenders on. We got the back laid on. The last thing we're gonna have to do is attach this all to the frame, but for now, I think this is a good stopping point. I've got plenty of seating room when I'm inside, hence the seat for testing it out. 6'4", 300 pounds, so has to be a little tall, but I figured I'd match the slider rail with the body line right there. So lots of massaging to do, to say the very least, but obviously you can see where I'm gonna do some weld mounts to the frame, fabricate some mounts up here as well, tie the A-pillars into the original A-pillars. Not sure what I'm gonna do with the fenders yet, but these how they're gonna look. It's gonna look quite funky. Custom hood, custom dash, custom front end, obviously all the sheet metal work there. Rear fenders are gonna get taken out and replaced with sheet metal fenders. Gonna have a nice big 10 gauge mounting plate to host the rear brake lights as well right here in the license plate. So all of this will get attached back into the frame and we should be nice and solid. Back at it, working on the side-by-side 71 Baja Bug. Obviously, we're gonna put the roll cage in first and build the body around where that roll cage goes. It was a Rhodes Racing roll cage kit. They're like 500 bucks for DOM. It's kind of a no-brainer just to buy the kit and then make it work on any application that's using a bug body. That's close enough to zero for me. Maybe hit it with a hammer one more time and call it a day. Gonna start working on the back here once I get the cage in place. Run the last runners on the cage on the inside and then work on those back fenders and everything else. All right, I got the wide angle view on, so you probably can't see super well, but this is what a Volkswagen roll cage looks like on a CF Moto side-by-side. So yeah, a bit funky. The body fits over top and we'll call that good enough for now. Like I said, body's on the ground drying from paint. Throw it back over the top. Probably weld in some more regular flat plate gussets and call it a... All right, so I went ahead and painted it pink like I told you. It wasn't a surprise. It is pink because the PRP seat is Miami Vice, pink and blue. So roll cage will be pink and this is what we're gonna go with. Okay, it may not look it, but we are making a ton of progress on the 71 Baja Bug side-by-side. List is getting pretty short. Next thing on the list is to figure out how to merge those corners of the cab. Yes, it's a little canted. I'll just push it. Merge those corners of the cab into the roll cage and kind of make an even body line. This is what the cage looks like on the inside. So VW Bug roll cage is a little more narrow than a standard side-by-side. So yeah, next step is a lot of sheet metal work, but we're making progress. Wonder how many people messed that up. Well, PRP Razor seats fit in a CF Moto side-by-side pretty well. Obviously they're not mounted, so I'll fix that gap later, but this is the way they're gonna look in here. Blue and pink looks freaking spectacular. I dig it, I dig it, I dig it. Now I just gotta finish up the rest of this build and then should look nice and pretty on the inside cab. Back working on the 71 Baja Bug. I have the seats laid off to the side. I'm about to go get those mounts welded in. We went ahead and welded the top front of the body back onto the cab itself. Now that the roll cage is finally in place, everything else is in place, we can lock the body down. Went ahead and did a bunch of ugly welds, kind of smashed it with a hammer. Little gentle persuader over there. Gently persuaded everything back into meshing with the Volkswagen roll cage side-by-side bug thing. This is what the profile we have looks like. And yeah, anywho, the state of the shop is quite a mess. So let's go ahead and go on to the next one, get the seats welded in, start working on the sheet metal and the floorboards, and keep churning on this project. I'm tired. It's really late here. We're working on the rest of the seat mounts. As you can tell, everything's cobbled together. I relocated the e-brake to be with the shifter. That way my PRP bench kind of merges around it. It sits nice and pretty. You'll have to trust the process on that one, but I'm sure it'll look good. Again, seat mounts are kind of welded in. Gonna go ahead and start sheet metaling all this work over here. Give it a nice coat of chassis paint. Hope that no more dust gets in there. And we're gonna throw the seats in, hopefully permanently, with this section of sheet metal and the back section of sheet metal complete. And then we're gonna start working on the dash and the front sheet metal and the fenders and quite literally everything else. But it's late, I'm tired. See you guys tomorrow. All right, working on the new lights for the Volkswagen side-by-side swap. These are 7-inch motorcycle headlights with turn signals, of course. So that's the reason we're going with there. Don't mind the black rust encapsulator prime or whatever you want to call it. It will be painted later. It is just black for now. So anyways, lights going in. Gonna go ahead and finish up these mounts, which are relatively simple. Like this side, I'll cut a notch where the old headlight used to be to allow some adjustment. And then on the back insides in here, you can see where a nice little piece of 1/8 inch steel will weld back onto the middle sections. This ear will be cut off. That was just there to support it. and we're gonna go ahead and call that a day. Good enough for government work. One step at a time, the side-by-side Volkswagen swap is coming together. All right, another late night working on the CF Moto. I'm starting to work on my floorboards as well as front fender panels, trying to get everything tacked into place, fully welding the body lines for now. That way I can go back and smooth them out, mesh everything out. Tacking together the 12 gauge floor. I don't know if you guys have seen the same video of that tree shooting through the floor on a side-by-side, but I don't want that to be me. So we're gonna replace it with 12 gauge steel. It's gonna be heavier. I mean, the whole thing is heavier as a general sense. So the weight we'll have to figure out at the very end. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and build it with sheet metal floor, and that's because I want to. Again, finishing up some of those front fender areas, really just kind of throwing metal in. This is really the laborious part where it's not super fun. So I'm gonna keep grinding away here, maybe get the driver's side done tonight, work on the passenger in the morning. All right, you probably can't tell what's going on, but I'm working on the sheet metal floors on the VW Bug side-by-side swap. Working on the driver's side first, simply because I want to see what it looks like. And you can kind of tell by the profile of both of them how much of a concave cockpit it's looking like, and I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, I don't enjoy sheet metal work, nor do I think I'm great or good at it, really frank. So yeah, here's everything in place. I'm gonna slap some more 16 gauge around the seat area, cover this with 16, in the middle of here for 16, basically up until the cross member runs. That way I have access to all those wires, and then the seats are, the nice seats are a little bit protected from mud and debris. Also gonna run some 16 up on the side and the back right here, kind of cover it all up. But yeah, I really want the sheet metal to be done. That way I can work on the more fun things as well. Also, don't ask me why I have this full CNC table, but I'm cutting by hand. I don't know why. All right, we have the cab compartment completely done for the Volkswagen side-by-side swap. Floor is 1/8 inch steel. All of the side body panel sheet metal work is 16 gauge. So kind of a mix of both. 1/8 inch on the floor just for some safety from hitting rocks and not having tree limbs shoot through the floorboard like that one video. So got rid of that. Merged the front fenders with the side-by-side plastic, and then 1/8 inch floor all together through this side pillar right here. Gonna add a dashboard as well, made out of steel, so kind of this ugly transition right here will be covered up, but nonetheless, this is how it's looking. Gonna spray this a little bit of a chassis coat black, throw the seats in, run some wires, work on the trans tunnel, and keep moving forward. The messy shop should be a good indicator of where this project is going. Lots of good progress on this so far. I think at the very end of it, I'm also gonna lower the side-by-side too. That should look pretty sweet. All right, we have the cab area finally painted as well. A little bit of Harbor Freight chassis black paint. Should be good enough. This is on the 71 Volkswagen CF Moto 950 side-by-side swap project. So making good progress throughout. Don't mind the sheet metal work. I'm never claimed to be a good sheet metaler or good at anything really in general. So here it is. A little bit of sheet metal, a little bit of cardboard, our actuated design, or whatever the saying is, just to make it happen. Seat areas as well. Next step is throwing in the PRP seats, finalizing the wiring, and working on the trans tunnel. So let's go there next. I like to end the videos with an overall shot of the progress on the Bug, just because it makes me a little happier working on it so much. Punch Bug, no punchbacks. Well, the Volkswagen side-by-side seeing some sunlight for the first time, mostly because I'm cleaning the shop after working on this for a couple weeks. So PRP seats are fully installed. All the wiring is ran. I just have to run the fuse boxes and the switch panels and kind of everything else. But here's how it's looking. This is on wide angle, so it does look a little different. But it's stubby, like a Volkswagen to say the least. But it's looking good, in my opinion. So a little bit of a walk around action here, working on it. I am going to put the back fenders on and chop the back fenders, so there will be a little more body work on the back to make it look more Baja Bug like. In any case, this is where it's going to be for now. Going to start working on the electric. All right, I've got the rear fenders just hung in place. I want to get your guys' opinion on if I should leave them and chop them, take them off, leave it back open, etc. Again, just hung in place. The gap's not perfect, but they're there. I'm thinking about cutting them with the body line, then cutting them at the back, putting the taillights right over there over the strip, calling it a day. Obviously not leaving them this long. They're gonna get chopped either way. Since the front has the fenders on, I almost think I need to keep the rear and give it a good old country chop right there. Kind of blend it into the back, maybe put a plate up there, etc. I don't know. Let me know what you think. All right, so I went ahead and chopped the rear fenders. Well, I welded them on and then chopped, and here's how it looks for the good old Volkswagen side-by-side swap. Nice shitty welds because the welder's on the lowest setting because old sheet metal from 60 years ago. So that's how they chopped, ended up looking. Obviously lots of leftovers, but I'm digging it. I think that's a really mean profile for those rear fenders. And again, those are all welded on now, so they'll be nice and permanent minus Bondo. So happy with that. Happy with the way the rear fenders turned out. Really happy with the progress overall. I think the next step's going to be finishing that body work in the rear so I can find a spot to mount the taillights. This area right here, and then finally getting to wiring. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep working on it. All right, so the Volkswagen side-by-side swap. The body's sitting a little tall, but I went ahead and put the rear fenders on, added some sheet metal with nice little curvature to make it look a little wide body, so to speak. Threw a little bit of black paint on it just for now, but that's where the taillights are gonna go. That's kind of the wide body back end of the side-by-side Baja Beetle swap. So I'm pretty happy with that. I am currently working on all the wiring, about to put the headlights and taillights in. I know the paint looks terrible, but we're gonna leave it like that for now. I will actually paint it later. I just want to get some rust proofing on it. All right, so we have the headlights finally wired with the turn signals. Here's how they look. Daytime running lights, regular, you know how it goes. Gonna go to the high beams. And finally, left and right turn signals. These have an LED flasher unit tucked up into this wiring harness right here, giving it the ability to flash, obviously. And here's what we look like. So that's the front headlights and turn signals. Pretty happy with that. Gonna go ahead and do the same thing in the rear and get those installed. All right, let's talk wiring. See, we just went ahead and put 2 control boards up there for all the switches. I think it matches like the screen for the CF Moto. Very bare bones, very rat roddy. I went ahead and added an extra 4-port fuse block, waterproof, just because I needed to run fuses for everything. I like being a little bit safe. The way everything works is power through the fuse box with the relay. We have a charger, the PRP heated seats, the radio for the back, and then winch in and out. The winch is tied, if you follow it, down to the pre-solenoid wires of the actual winch controller that came stock. And if you can see, when you use the regular controller, it also lights up in and out, which I wanted. So that's the way everything works. And then I went ahead and just threw the winch controller down here in the bottom with little tech screws. That'll be good enough. That's the way it all works. I still have to put the turn signals and the headlights back in, and the new headlights. So that's what we're on to next. All right, the 71 Baja Bug side-by-side swap is looking pretty. This is what we've got going on for the rear turn signals, tail lights, etc. Nice and simple. Got these on Amazon. They're quite literally $10. So I'll maybe add some to the outer fenders, maybe some like rocket tail lights, some old school looking ones to match the Beetle aesthetic. But for now, these will keep us road legal. So this is what it looks like. I think the wide body Volkswagen is looking pretty cool, especially with the CF Moto side-by-side chassis underneath it. So happy with it so far. Everything's coming along nicely. I think we're moving along to some finishing touches, like putting the fuel cell in next, making that fuel cell actually run the OEM pump, which is a little bit of a trick, but I'll make that work. So yeah, moving along nicely. I don't know why I find this shifter cover so appeasing. It's simply a $25 shifter cover from a low riding company, but I just think it really brings together that whole seat compartment on the Volkswagen Bug side-by-side swap. I'm about to start working on the front hood and the front fender area. So yeah, but this video is really about that cover. I think it's really unique and kind of matches my style. So Good for me for American traditional. Brings everything together. All right, we're working on the front grille and sheet metal work a la General Mayhem from Roadkill with the Garden Supply front grille. So working on that, but I just wanted to show you guys I did complete the trans tunnel. That way this is no longer a grenade waiting to happen. So yeah, this is how it looks. I still really haven't figured out a way to mesh in that back area up there. That's just like bent steel over it. Maybe I'll do some kind of epoxy or spray foam and then paint it or something, but I truly don't care. It's gonna splash water and I know that. I'll drill a couple sinker holes, call it a day. But yeah, 1/8" steel to match the floor for the trans tunnel. Trans tunnel, it's really the front drive shaft tunnel with the wiring harness and the cooling tube. So not really a trans tunnel, really a drive shaft tunnel. Nonetheless, 5 inches tall, gives you plenty of foot room, kind of encapsulates everything in a nice, safe little package there. So happy with that. Done with the trans tunnel. Gonna start working on the front end, making that look more Volkswagen buggy. All right, so we're working on the front grille and then the side sheet metal right there. And this is how I do all this metal work, by the way. Flat pieces of 16 gauge sitting over there on the forklift. Cut them out to the shape where it's gonna fold after I use a gentle persuader here. Weld one side in, gently persuade with the hammer, and knock it into place. Kind of be aggressive about it. So I'll show you what this looks like when it's done. All right, so not the prettiest. You can definitely see some bumps with the hammer, but I'm never claiming to be a bodywork guy. Who really cares, right? A little bit of filler paint, cover up those welds. It is welding new metal on a 60-year-old metal, so it's about the best it can get in my expertise. So that's how that's gonna look. Gonna do the same thing on the other side, right where that angle iron cross member is, and then plan out how we're gonna build a hood. Should be fun. Working on the hood on the VW side-by-side, I went ahead and framed it out. Gonna go ahead and CNC cut out a nice design, slap that on the top. As you can see, nice simple gas struts, because we're making this good on the parts that really don't matter. So I added 2 gas struts to it for seemingly no reason, but it should cover up all the electronics and whatnot. So happy with this. Gonna keep working on finishing that hood area. Once that's done, obviously the grille is complete, lights are complete, paint, everything else will come later. And finishing up the gas tank, and have to TIG weld a new adapter onto a Evil Energy tank because that's the cheapest way to do it. And I want to reuse the OEM pump. So working on it, making more progress. Should be done relatively soon, maybe this week. All right, it's dark, but we have the rear sheet metal in place. This is kind of the inner fenders, if you will, for the outer skin for everything to sit. I'm gonna go ahead and you can't really see because it's dark, but I'm gonna go ahead and weld everything together up and down along the bottom roll cage seam as well. Make sure that's all welded in place, and then I'm gonna work on smashing this into the body, welding it to the body, making it mesh, etc. That way we have inner fenders, so to speak. This is gonna be gapped right here as well for a project later, lowering the side-by-side actually, so moving the coil mounts upwards, making it lower, etc. So that's gonna be open for now. Gonna smash these against the fender. That's how that's gonna work. All right, so we got the hood welded on. That has struts and the weatherproofing and everything else. It's just a little bit of 3/4 inch angle iron with a sheet of 12 gauge steel over top. I am gonna add some hood louvers to it to give it a little bit of 3D dimension, but here's how it looks. It obviously looks a bit unique, a bit stubby, but I'm relatively happy with it. I think the hood louvers and the paint will make it a little more 3D and give it a little more character. So for now, we're gonna call that the complete front end minus paint. A nice little alternate use of business cards. Instead of doing the index card trick or the playing card trick, just throw some business cards in the headlights when you're gonna rattle can paint your piece of shit car. So here we go, painting the side-by-side with some Rust-Oleum 2X gloss. Super easy. I don't really care that it's gonna be runny in some spots. Well, a little runny, you can see drips in some spots, because my welding looks like that and the sheet metal looks like that. I didn't want to bond over everything and try and make things look perfect, so to speak, or try and smooth things out. So I want it to look a little rat roddy. I want it to look a little 71 Volkswagen Bug with some steel welded plates to make it come together. So obviously, I'm not going to go through it and like smooth out body lines and take out some of the dents in the sheet metal work. I'm just going to paint over it. And this is easy because every time I'm on the trail, I can just bring a can of this, and if I ever scratch it, I can fix it on the spot or fix it on the trailer. So super stoked. Yeah, so we're making good progress. I'll go ahead and let this dry for a little bit and come back. All right, we still have some more to do in terms of finishing things up, but here's a walk around of the paint job with the good old rattle cans. Nice and simple. Just going to show you this real quick so I can move on to the next step. This is what I was talking about. I'm not going to come here and fix this 50-year-old rust. I'm just going to paint over it, call it a day. It is a toy. Well, I take that back. I even clear coated it. So I just put a nice big coat of 2X clear coat over it. I think it looks pretty shiny. It's all still very wet. Obviously, you can see the sheet metal work is still not fixed, but we're gonna rock and roll with that. So we'll have shiny, ugly sheet metal work, kind of blending everything together, and that's the way it's gonna look. And I'm happy with that. That'll look good enough, still really easily fixable, and give it a little more gloss. This will obviously look a lot better when it's in the sun and get some good reflections on it. But for now, I'll let this dry overnight. That's 5 coats in total, so should be relatively thick, all things considered. So I think we're looking pretty. Gonna let it dry and work on the gas tank tomorrow, get the OEM fuel system working, and we should be test driving. Pretty stoked. Just in case you're curious what this side looks like. So happy with that so far, making good progress. All right, well, we're still missing some hood latches and some other accoutrement, but here it is sitting outside for the first time since I painted it. I really want to lower that rear end, like significantly lower the rear end. So we'll see if I go down that route. Again, this is just me, right? Just my opinion. You know, not an expert by any means, definitely not the most spectacular taste in the world. But if the rear end was lower, I think it just might give it a little bit of a cooler look, a little street machine-esque. But it definitely is sitting a certain way and stanced in a very peculiar way, which it's kind of growing on me. The angles are just so funny to follow. So we'll see. It'll stay like this for a little bit for sure. I'll do some test runs first, but eventually I do think I will adjust those coilover angles to make up for the weight and then lower it in the same time. All right, nice and dusty, but this is how the hood is going to look. Those are the hood louvers with a little bit of Jeep rubber latches. So nice and simple, should hold it down properly. Not 100% set with that yet, but it'll be on for now, that's for sure. So we're gonna rock and roll with that, move on to finishing up the fuel cell, get it installed, and take her for a test drive. So I wanted to reuse the original CF Moto fuel pump and cinder. That is usually under the seat in the fuel tank, which is quite obviously removed with all the custom steelwork. So that's gone. Fuel cell's going in the back, but I want to retain the OEM pressure as well as the fuel level on the gauge. Bought a generic drifting fuel cell, put a rollover valve on it for safety, capped off the other one. Then I took a 2 3/4 inch hole saw to fit the OEM pump. And if you look in the fuel cell, you can see that the OEM pump filter and level sitting at the empty gauge is sitting on top of that foam inside the fuel cell. Maybe wondering, is it gonna read empty when there's a little bit of fuel left? Yes. Will it even pick up that fuel since the filter is sitting on top of the foam? Probably not. So it's all designed so I can make this run. It's still a 10-gallon tank. We're probably gonna get 9 gallons out of it. That's good enough for me. So yeah, we're gonna call this good and throw it in the back of the side-by-side. All right, it's great now that we're running, but the tires rub quite a bit, as you can see right there. Not a lot of room, especially when you're turning. So we're gonna have to chop the fenders. Got the Hypertherm cranked on. Went ahead and just did a nice little hand cut up the side to kind of match the profile of the way that fender's going. I'll hit it with the flap disc to kind of smooth it out, give it a good transition. That should be plenty of clearance. It does suck cutting more of the original Volkswagen away because we're losing the Volkswagen S shape, but it's already really losing it. So not too worried about it. Gonna go ahead and chop the other side, smooth them both out and see how we look. Yep, and that's exactly why I use Rattle Can paint, because I can just chop through it, throw some more paint on it, and call it a day. This is how they look now. Should be clearance perfectly fine. Relatively flat, all things considered. Side profile looks like so. Obviously the other side's the same way. So happy with that. I'm gonna go ahead and keep moving forward with it, AKA go do some testing.